Dr. Tokars
Here.
here, and that is it.
Secretary Zaremba, do we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. So I just want to welcome again commission members and the viewing public to our final quarterly meeting of the year. It's really hard to believe that we've been meeting for 2 years and have had eight formal meetings of the commission so far. I just want to thank everyone for their time, energy, and commitment to the commission over these past few years. I guess time flies when you're having fun. Chair Malone is unable to join us today due to an illness, so we hope that she feels better soon. In keeping with our rules of order, I will serve in her capacity with Secretary Zaremba's help covering the meeting agenda. So as you can see from the screen, we have a lot to cover, so let's get started.
Okay, in terms of the next step, we have approval of minutes. We had a few edits from Councilwoman Spencer. Those have been incorporated. She's requested that we define each acronym every time it's introduced, which is absolutely reasonable. And then one aspect of the committee updates for the policy/budget committee. For clarity, changing a bullet point to outline the city may also wish to reconsider requirements, detailed specifications for tree protections during construction. So those have been incorporated. Minutes, make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
Sorry, I see did we lose our connection? Okay.
Should be fine.
Oh, okay. I don't see the presentation on the screen.
Let's wait. Okay.
All right, thanks so much, Rick. Okay, so given Secretary Zaremba's overview of some changes requested by Councilmember Spencer, is there any further discussion about the approval of last meeting's minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve minutes.
Okay.
Second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just got a question.
Yes,
I wasn't
Rick.
at the meeting, so do I abstain? Because I wasn't here to approve because I don't know what they were.
Okay, so we can note you as that in the record, is that you weren't at the last meeting, so
Abstention.
abstention. Thank you.
Thank you.
So aside from Rick's comment, it sounds like the motion has passed to approve the meeting minutes. Okay. Now we can move on to unfinished business, please. So I think we need to advance a slide or two, please.
She's
Brett.
controlling that one.
Oh. We didn't get our remote to work.
This is your screen.
Can you try next slide, please, Brett?
I already did it.
It was, okay. We definitely appreciate everyone's continued patience. It kind of reminds me of the early days of COVID, when we were all like working from home and trying to figure out the technology and how to do Zoom meetings and everything. So give us a moment to pull it up on the screen because we want to make sure that the viewing public can follow along with our slide presentation.
They're good. It's just this one is not.
It's behind you.
Okay, thank you.
I
Thank you.
Sorry.
Don't advise.
don't know. We can move on to unfinished business probably.
Okay.
You need a bicycle mirror.
I do, yes, thank you. Absolutely. Can you please advance the slide that where it's unfinished business?
Yes. So we're on the youth appointee recommendation.
Okay,
The executive committee, as you mentioned in the last meeting, went through a process of interviewing the applicants who submitted applications to be a youth appointee. And through that process, we were able to identify a candidate and submit that recommendation to the mayor, which was approved. So the youth appointee will start in January of 2025 to align with the rest of the terms of the Urban Forestry Commission, and we're really excited to have them work then.
So more details coming, right? Yes. We definitely want to take the youth appointee through like some onboarding, so, and that will probably include meeting with, individual chairs of the committees and things like that, so. But yeah, we're very excited at this point to have identified our youth appointee. Is there any comments, questions on that?
So no formal actions needed by the commission, the mayor has appointed these members. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, it's a mayoral appointee, correct.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to make a comment, this is great news. It's great to see we finally got some more youth representation on the commission.
Agreed, thank you, Xavier. Okay, thank you. All right, so moving on to our next item of unfinished business is the Tree Commission Academy senior class. I just want to congratulate publicly, although they're not here to celebrate with us right now, Sarah O'Keefe and Gray Alexi are graduates of the Tree Commission Academy. This is a program that, just to refresh maybe, people in the audience and at home, this is a program that the Ohio Division of Natural Resources has put together. I believe it's been in place for about 12 years. And so our Tree Commission members have gone through, it starts freshman class all the way up to senior class, and then with a graduation ceremony. So the members who will be attending the Fairview Park October 30th senior class, they're listed on the screen in front of you. We also have some applications. So what we would be asking is the commission members who still need to sign up for that October 30th class to go ahead and grab an application, fill it out, and then leave it. Does that sound good? Okay, and then we will just submit them to ODN, our regional forester, Steph Miller, kind of in a batch there. Looking forward to the senior class curriculum, which covers budgeting. And we in the city of Cleveland will be entering our budget season, I guess, beginning of 2025. Management planning, also incredibly important for, how do we manage our urban, our assets, our tree assets. And then there's a project involved too, where we actually, as students, create our own management plan for an urban forest. Next slide, please. Wait, before I jump ahead, that was a lot. Are there any questions or comments about the Tree Commission Academy senior class? Is there anyone who knows they will not be able to attend the October 30th? It's a one-day class. Okay. All right. Great. Okay.
Okay. And so amongst the committees, we've been having more conversations around how to formalize the processes of each committee as we're formalizing processes for the overall Urban Forestry Commission itself. And so we created a draft template of a committee charter, which we've received feedback, at least from Councilwoman Spencer on as the chair of the budget committee, and welcome feedback from anyone else as well as we continue to build this out. But we have discussed that a committee charter formalizes the commission processes that we're moving forward with, gives each committee structure, and clarifies how each committee needs to accomplish goals within the Urban Forestry Commission ordinance. So it'll help us better track that progress over time, to be able to refer back to a template document to keep us on track. So we continue to welcome feedback from committee chairs and committee members on this draft charter, and hope this is something that we can have adopted, each committee adopt by the end of the year to be introduced in the new year.
Madam Chair, I do have a clarifying question.
Please, yes. Councilmember Spencer.
Thank you. So, is the template
we're still waiting for the template to be finalized. I believe it's the first question. And then the second piece would be using the agreed upon template, each committee would actually finish its and adopt its own charter before the end of the year. Those the kind of the next two steps as I understand them.
Yeah, I think that the.
Yeah, go ahead, you kick it off, and then if there's anything that I can add,
Yeah,
I'm happy to do so.
I think that the hope would be that something that we could introduce to the next, the first quarter meeting in 2025 for each of the committees. But if there are larger items that need to be made or any other changes that need to be made with this committee charter template, we can continue to do that too. So we're all in agreement.
I would just say that I'm happy to move forward to prepare a draft charter for the budget committee and present that to committee members. If you would be willing, secretaries around budgets, to recirculate the template that you feel is the one you'd like the committees to work from, I think we can move forward.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councilmember Spencer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so I'm gonna actually make a motion here that we move forward with the template as is, that each of the chairs move forward with the template as is, since it's already been circulated. And that we'll use this template to complete the charters by the end of the year. So the motion is to accept this as the template for each committee chair. And then, so that's the motion that's on the table.
Clarifying question
Yes.
for discussion, is that what we're looking at on the screen, the proposed template? Okay, so that is slightly different than what the initial was initially circulated, I think.
Yeah, just based on the data that you provided.
Okay. Great. And we have this link already?
Correct.
Okay, all right, good, yes.
So I'm happy to receive it.
I second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor of using this as the committee charter template? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, the motion passes to use this template for the committee charter. And then I guess, yeah, to just reiterate Councilmember Spencer's point is that, what are the tasks of each committee is to complete the charter template by the end of the year. Great. Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, next order of business is the update on the urban forestry division. So in July 2024, actually the day after our last quarterly meeting, the Department of Parks and Recreation was created through legislative action. And during that same piece of legislation, a new division of forestry was created within the Department of Parks and Recreation. The existing divisions to move to the new department are the Division of Recreation, Division of Park Maintenance, which under the Division of Park Maintenance, there's parks, cemeteries, greenhouse, and cultural gardens. And then October 2024, Mayor Bibb appointed Alexandria Nichols to be the Director of Parks and Recreation. And it is my honor and privilege to invite newly appointed Director Nichols up to the table, please. She comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience to the city, so we're so excited to have you, Director, on Team Cleveland.
Appreciate it.
So please, if you wouldn't mind just have a seat and meet the commission members and say hello.
Sure.
Thank
Hi.
you.
Well, thank you for having me here today. It is certainly an honor to serve the city of Cleveland, in the region, as the Parks and Recreation Director. Most recently, I was the Recreation Director for the city of Shaker Heights. I've worked for Cleveland Metro Parks, the National Recreation and Park Association, the YMCA of Greater Cleveland. And I love Parks and Recreation. I think it's plants, flora, as well as people. We all have to live together. So I don't know if there's anything else you want me to say. I'm on day 7. Been inundated with meetings, trying to meet the people, figure out the budget, figure out how we're going to extract Parks and Recreation and all of these services from Public Works. But it's a task I'm up for, and again, it is an honor to serve, and I really appreciate being able to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director. I'm very glad that you were able to make it to the meeting today, so thank you very much.
Absolutely. I
Does that-
apologize if I was tardy, but meetings.
I know, that's what I figured, yes, absolutely, you've had such a full plate, and then maybe that goes to January 2025 is when all the divisional changes are to take effect. So that just tells you in what short amount of time director has to ramp up on all things in the new department. So
Yes, so right now, we've been having a lot of meetings with Public Works. We're working on trying to transition a lot of those functions from the Public Works Department into a new division and trying to get to know the staff, what resources we have. Budget development has already started, so trying to figure out what that's gonna look like. I don't know that I'll be able to have a lot of changes in terms of what's already been submitted. But either way, it's gonna build the foundation for what we can provide to the residents, and I'm really excited. And I'll just say, I'm a news nerd and I've been paying attention to what the city of Cleveland was doing in advance of even applying for this position, and I was excited about that work. And so when the position became available, it was certainly something I wanted to be a part of.
thank you for that.
I'll go ahead and make a comment, Director Nichols. I'm Jenny Spencer. I'm a member of Cleveland City Council, so I'm the council member appointee to the Urban Forestry Commission. So I look forward to spending quality time with you at the budget table. And I mean, I appreciate that that's front and center, because I think that that is a huge lift to unpack a Parks and Recreation budget from a much larger Public Works budget.
Yes.
But then we collectively are really excited about the additional task that's been added, which is a standalone budget for urban forestry, which the city hasn't had in decades, a very long time. So kind of a learning curve within a learning curve, and we hope to be a support for that and advocates also for budgetary needs for the new division of urban forestry.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I know I have a meeting coming up, it has to do with the USA Forestry grant that was awarded to the city of Cleveland. So it's certainly work that we're going to continue to progress.
Yes.
Thank you.
So nice
Yay,
to meet
thank
you.
you.
Also, I grew up in Shaker Heights.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. So there you go.
So you were converted to Cleveland resident, so I might one day be converted?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And then we do have a slide coming up on the US Forest Service grant too.
Oh, okay,
The
cool.
Office of Urban Forestry is gonna administer and, make sure that we do exactly
Spend
what
as
we said we
accordingly.
were gonna do. That's exactly right,
Awesome.
yeah. So looking forward to working more closely on that as well.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other comments, any questions for Director Nichols? I have a feeling that we'll be inviting Director Nichols to come to commission meetings.
If you have to-
Certainly in the future, as you decide like how you want to grow your department, what your vision is.
Well, we
We'd
will
love
grow
to
it
hear it.
together.
All right, fantastic, great. Thank you so much
Thank
and
you. I
welcome.
appreciate it.
Nice to meet
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Nice to meet you.
And we're gonna move on to the next slide, but if you can click next, thank you. We're gonna move on to committee updates, which we have about 10 minutes allocated for each committee, having maintenance committee starting first.
Well, hi, everyone. So in our last meeting, we talked about formalizing our process. And so that's what our committee has done. So we've utilized the templates and it's sort of moving in that direction. So we met twice on 8/26 and 9/16, and it was Bernie, Ray, Roger, and myself. And we had some really good discussions. So I'll just go over some of the themes that we had. So the one theme was really was updating our maintenance committee charter, and we don't have it completely finalized at this point, but it's pretty close. And I'll just give you a sense of what it is. I'll just read the first sentence or two of it. But the one thing we all agreed upon, and is that we are committed to fostering a healthy, diverse, and resilient urban forest for the benefit of our community and future generations. And the committee supports our commitment by making maintenance recommendations to sustain and enhance she can be in the city. And then we went on and talked about making sure, for me as a committee, that we support really the lifestyle, life cycle of the tree. And that's kind of segues into our kind of next topic, where, you know, certainly the life cycle, you have the young tree training, and then as time goes on, the tree gets older, it needs to be maintained and pruned, and eventually. So we kind of talked about it, and of course, we can't, we don't know the answer necessarily, but the one theme that we do have is really, you know, can we help support really that young tree training in the first like maybe 5 years of the tree growth through watering, mulching, and pruning. And so those are some of the themes. We saw some good examples in the city of Chicago has, and actually a good example that Western Reserve has that you guys share when we plant trees. And it's really had Mayor Bibb's photo on it. You know, you could really almost package it up and distribute it. But we think there might be some opportunities to review it. So that's really the theme for this quarter. So.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions or comments for Dan, Chair of the Maintenance Committee? I just want to say that you've made some great progress there on the charter.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing, and thanks for the work that you're leading and the Maintenance Committee is doing. Okay, we'll move on then to our Policy Committee Chair, Tom Schreiber, for an update.
Hi, thank you. The policy committee remains focused on chapter 509, and I'm very pleased that today's update, policy committee voted to bring a motion to the full commission, which I'll discuss a little later after the update. We have been focused on chapter 509 in Cleveland Tree Ordinance because it is cited in the Cleveland Tree Plan as needing an update. The Cleveland Tree Plan says, specifically, Chapter 509 Tree Ordinance, Cleveland's Tree Ordinance was passed in 1924. The ordinance, I'll paraphrase, the ordinance does not include modern best practices, nor does it include adequate penalties for compliance. Your working ordinance will not only make significant progress in preserving trees, but it can also create new and substantial revenue streams for the forest. The Chapter 509 is referenced frequently in the Cleveland Tree Plan, and as we discussed tree protection plans, we have coming back to Chapter 509 and have done significant diligence in reviewing the current ordinance. In all, I want to thank the Urban Forestry Policy Committee. We've met for over 8 hours reviewing Chapter 509, and that's just in meetings. All folks have also done research, reading, and sharing. And as an all-volunteer commission and committee, I just want to really thank everybody for devoting all that time to going through lots of something that's not necessarily in any of our wheelhouses. So I really appreciate that work. We went section by section, comparing the entire ordinance to Cincinnati's ordinance and Columbus ordinance, both of which are far more modern. We've drawn a couple conclusions. One is that the law is indeed antiquated and verbose, and that the complexity creates challenges for enforcement. But we did not identify major gaps between our ordinance and other ordinance. We found that the ordinance does cover the main areas one would expect from models and templates, and could really benefit mostly from a reorganization and in many cases just creating more concise. Before I move on to recommendations and findings, I'll invite anybody else from the policy committee meeting if you have any comments or any context you'd like to add to that summary. Is that mostly right? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, you did. And I just want to say that I really enjoy, even though it may not seem like it, reading through different cities' codes. It's actually been a very illuminating experience, and it's something that's been, you know, kind of I've identified as a need to update those ordinances from day one. So it's just so wonderful that we have the commission supporting this work in the policy committee and you as chair.
Thank you so much. So the recommendations and findings, we had three sort of general recommendations for all sections, and that was that we should include our purpose and intent in our ordinance. Right now, we don't have it. We should also include definitions in our ordinance. We don't have terms defined. And then we need to simplify language and prefer references to ANSI standards or best management practices over codified specifications. And that's a best practice for all tree commissions. When you write very specific descriptions in your ordinance, it requires council to update the ordinance to, when things change. I'll give an example of like a species list. Our ordinance doesn't include references to specific species, with the exception of like elms around the caves on Dutch elm disease. The best practice is actually to refer to the ANSI standards or publish best management practices from the International Society of Arboriculture or our state urban forestry department, so that those can be updated more frequently and leveraged to be more modern. We also, going section by section, found really specific ways we think the code could be reorganized into sections about public trees, private trees, and administration and enforcement. I think it would be a lot. The current code is kind of all over the place. It has laws that reference public trees and private trees in the same sections. It has administration and enforcement kind of sewn throughout the law, making it a little confusing. And we have a spreadsheet where we sort of broken down each ordinance section and what those specific are. So the next steps, we would like the full tree commission to recommend to council and the mayor. That is our mandate is to create recommendations for the mayor and council. We'd like them to recommend. We'd like the full commission to recommend to the mayor and council that we rewrite chapter 509. That mayor and council engage their respective legal department resources, and that the policy committee work with council and or the mayoral sponsor of the legislation and legal departments to work on drafts of the legal law. We'd like to remain involved in the process as a tree commission, and as one that's done a lot of study on this, as well as the graduates of the tree commission. At this time, unless there's any questions, well, I'll come on and ask if anyone has any questions about the community work, or if any community members want to add any additional comments.
And I have a question, just a clarifying question for around the next steps specifically. So in my mind, I was thinking like the policy committee would basically write the proposed changes. And then those proposed changes would then be sent simultaneously, but through separate channels. One channel going to council for review and comment, and then another channel, through internal, chain of command for review. Is that is that in keeping? Like, can anyone speak to that? Maybe Councilmember Spencer or Tom? Is that?
I will double check. I had understood we would follow the same process we did for the tree preservation ordinance, and I think it was more of a working group type approach. So attorneys were present. This is my understanding of how it went. But,
Okay.
It was collaborative. So I will double check on that.
Okay.
This is great. Assuming that colleagues approve this motion this afternoon, then I think we can say that motion, that the commission has approved the motion to move forward with the revised chapter 509, which kind of gives a little bit of oomph to the next steps. So I can see it going either way, but I was referring back to how the tree preservation ordinance work was done. I can double check on the specifics of that process and work with Tom on that.
But yeah, and if there's anything, I can ask also internally, right? Like what is the preferred, method?
Yep.
We certainly don't have to vote on this motion if you think, if we believe that we should spend more time crafting it. The motion simply states that the Urban Forestry Policy Commission recommends that chapter 509 of the Cleveland City Ordinance be updated by vote of City Council. The law should be drafted with consultation of the Urban Forestry Commission Policy Committee and with the guidance provided by the State of Ohio Department. And that would be the complete motion. If we vote as a commission to approve this motion, it goes into the city record and we can refer to that as our recommendation.
Okay, so can you read would you mind reading the first part?
Absolutely.
Okay, just the first part is to make a motion to,
The Cleveland Urban Forestry Policy Commission recommends that chapter 509 of the Cleveland City Ordinance be updated by vote of city council.
any questions on that? I guess the only question I guess it's not really a question, it's just me trying to understand better, like what all the internal processes are. Just for my own clarification and learning, is that you said like we've spent 8 hours, right, as a whole committee, policy committee, really taking a deep dive into chapter 509. So is there a motion that we need to get support for continuing the work of the committee looking at 509? Or is it, we've done a really great job as a committee, we feel like we're in a good place then to potentially expand the collaboration? What's kind of
Well,
your vision around that?
my vision, I think, and my vision is for the relevant law departments to lead the effort to rewrite the code based on our recommendation that it needs to be rewritten, and that we would be working with them on those drafts and consultation. Possibly, I think it's a bit of a lift for us to propose a law or to rewrite the law. I think we really want that to be led by the sort of legal teams. But included in the motion is that the law would be drafted with the consultation of the Urban Forestry Policy Committee. So we would continue to advise and to share our recommendations.
And may I add, I think to me, what's in the language of the motion, what stands out is we are essentially affirming that chapter 509 needs to be rewritten. So what we've done is studied it, compared it to other municipalities and said, yes, we affirm. And then it's already in the Cleveland Tree Plan as well, right, that it needs to be rewritten, but we are affirming that and we are moving forward with a formal request for a new ordinance that would amend chapter 509. And that would ultimately be voted on and voted into law, is what we're working towards. That's what I understand the language of it. It's more of an affirmation rather than specifying that, not all parts of the process are known, but I don't think the motion needs to be more specific than it is. That makes sense. To be valid. Yeah, that's kind of where
Does that feel okay, like to just, based on, Councilmember Spencer's input, to say that do we want to make a motion as a full commission to recommend changes to the full chapter 509?
Yes.
Okay.
That is I think that's the motion as drafted here.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you reread the motion?
Yeah,
The Cleveland Urban Forestry Policy Commission recommends
or
that,
just the Cleveland Forestry Commission.
sorry,
Urban
yeah, the
Forestry
policy should be in there. The Cleveland Urban Forestry Commission recommends that chapter 509 of the Cleveland City Ordinance be updated by vote of City Council. The law shall be drafted with consultation of the Urban Forestry Commission Policy Committee and with the guidance provided by the State of Ohio Department.
Yeah, okay, see nodding, I'm sorry, I'm just not sure if we, the commission,
So
can say, like, we recommend that this is updated by vote of city council, because isn't that essentially, that is the process? Like, no ordinance gets updated except by the vote of city council.
If you want to remove that particular language from the motion, that's fine.
But I just didn't know if it was gonna be any, I guess I just wanna make sure that we stay, essentially as a commission in that recommendation and advisory position. as a body and not appear to be crossing into
Mandating.
a realm of mandating. Thank you.
So, yeah, I'm gonna actually suggest that we table the motion and discuss it again in our policy committee meeting. I understood we had some pretty clear consensus about this, and I'm sensing that we don't. And I think there's nothing time sensitive. It was last passed in 1924. So I think we can take a break, and we'll bring this motion back to the full commission.
And I would like, thank you, and I would like to just say that I definitely want to get an answer, like to figure out internally through my, chain of command, like what is the best approach?
Sure.
And then to be able to come back, and have that conversation with you, and then also Councilmember Spence will do the same.
It's also like
Yeah,
to,
right.
through the rest of the administration, to me, there's other
Right.
departments that this touches,
Yeah.
visions,
Correct.
and not to have their input, I'm sure forestry, green city, water, law would want to see what it does and what its impacts are, and I don't know what's the process that goes that way also, not just the council says their recommendations and implement them. That sounds
Yeah.
a lot of steps we didn't see.
That's what, thanks for that input too, yeah. So, yeah, I'm happy to do that research.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That's the policy committee update.
Great, thank you so much, Tom. Okay, and, let's move on to, our final committee report out, budget committee with, Chair Jenny Spencer.
Great. So we met virtually on September 19th, and I actually do like the Zoom format because we did have a guest. We did have a member of the public observe. So I do like that aspect of a virtual meeting in terms of access to just attending, members of the public attending. I would say that for me, one of the major highlights of our meeting was welcoming Dan Lehman as a new budget committee member. We had a couple of vacancies with changes of commission composition, and I was so delighted that Dan volunteered and wished to join the budget committee, and I'm just really looking forward to working with you. The two major thrusts of our committee meeting were talking about what we just talked about with our new Parks and Recreation Director, about essentially the process for creating a budget for the new standalone division of urban forestry. So that process has already started. We talked about the potential of the budget committee meeting again in the next month or so as that work continues and as sort of the meat gets put on the bones. I know I'm coming up with, that doesn't need to be in the minutes. As sort of the new division budget gets built out. And we have a little bit more specifics about what will actually be in the mayor's estimate for the new standalone division of urban forestry. And then the second major topic we discussed as the committee was the USDA Forest Service grant, which I see is here under new business. So I won't get into details here in my verbal report, but that is just monumental. The 3.4 million that we are receiving from that grant is really important. And so we had a really great in-depth discussion about how the 3.4 million will be allocated. And then we concluded our meeting by touching on work orders and city works and sort of progress against some funds that have been allocated. And this work is challenging because even as we make inroads into managing risk in the urban forest, as Jennifer has taught us, and our obligations as a city. We had, for example, the August 8th storm. August 6th, there, the number is
How did I
seared
forget?
into your mind. So, we had made progress, but then sort of a major new influx of work orders came in. So, definitely something that the overall, this will be reflected in the budget committee's charter when we adopt it, but the idea of how do we create a sustainable budget for urban forestry, but also not move towards not being just in reactive mode, but being able to proactively manage the forest. It's a big challenge, but looking forward to continuing those discussions.
Any questions for Chair Spencer. Okay, well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
the update, Councilmember Spencer. Well, the next topic, all right, this actually goes along with the update from the Budget Committee Chair. Here's the update on our grant that we received from the U.S. Forest Service. Mayor Bibb is seen pictured here at the announcement in Luke Easter Park, actually in July. And he announced the award, actually, there it is, July 10th. City Council passed legislation to be able to receive the funds on September 9th. And the official award letter was received by the city from the U.S. Forest Service on September 10th. The purpose of the grant is to focus those dollars on the Justice 40 initiative and funding for all the CJUST communities, which I believe Cleveland is 86%. I'm looking to you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Madam Secretary. So the CJUST, just for those of you who don't know, stands for the Climate Justice and Economic, what's the S stand for? Screening tool, yes. Climate Justice and Economic Screening Tool, which is available for anyone to take a look at. It's really, there's a lot of great information once you kind of take a deep dive there. And so that's where we need to focus the spending of these dollars in those communities. So we're starting with a tree inventory of public right-of-way trees and also vacant planting sites. So tree lawns where we don't have a tree but could, happily grow and establish a tree. And then also doing some transformative maintenance, transformational actually, along Opportunity Corridor, specifically focusing on the existing trees, and tying it into like the young tree training that our maintenance chair mentioned earlier. And then how do we really support the ongoing, how do we make sure that when we plant them, they can become established? And really putting that effort into the Opportunity Corridor. And then also we're going to be using contractual assistance through our regular requirements contracts to perform ongoing, tree maintenance up to and including young tree training. So that's just high level overview. We have a lot of work to do in terms of, kind of writing the RFPs to get this work done and setting up, having the various conversations with our internal finance and Office of Business Management. So I'm very excited to have the support also from the Office of Sustainability to kind of answer our questions as we move through this, because their newly formed Division of Urban Forestry will be administering this grant and doing all the reporting and implementation and follow up and follow through. So any questions on the grant specifically? Next slide, please. We want to see. Let's power for a second on this. I'm just being mindful of time. Okay, just a quick change in order of agenda here. We want to make sure that we have time to go through the revisions to the rules and regulations. And then if there's time at the end, we'll go back to the high level overview of a draft policy for trees and sidewalks. So we'll go over to Secretary Zaremba to take us through revisions to the rules and regulations.
Sounds good. It's got a little sneak peek of what we might cover later on. So thanks for your adjustment there. We got together as an executive committee and discussed some of the processes that we've been talking about through each committee for some time now, and have been compiling that into a set of recommendations to revise the rules and regulations currently adopted by the Urban Forestry Commission. So I'm going to run through that. I provided this document earlier this morning, but I'm going to just go through the rest of it since I'm sure no one got the chance to read that. we have a couple different articles that we've provided some updates on as well. In terms of Article 2, that pertains to members, we've added or are proposing adding a section, if you could just go back up, Rick. Proposing adding a section related to vacancies and succession planning. And this would just mean adopting the process of having one of the commission members' term is ending, going through an offboarding process, led through the executive committee, completing an exit interview with the leaving member, and then forming a Forestry Commission and appointing entity that the commission position is vacant. We can go to the next slide. And then the other edit to this article pertaining to members is building on the selection process for new Urban Forestry Commission members. And so if a seat becomes vacant, either due to a term ending or due to a commission member leaving earlier than their term has been completed, the executive committee can announce the vacancy to the Urban Forestry Commission, appointing body, either the mayor or the council. The mayor's office of sustainability would post this vacancy on our website, but we currently have the updates to the Urban Forestry Commission. And then the executive committee may or may not have the discretion from an ad hoc committee to support the advertisement and selection of the new Urban Forestry Commission members to fill those vacancies. Having that application period of 30 days and the process for reviewing applications being the executive committee or ad hoc committee reviewing applications, completing interviews with qualified applicants, and communicating with the rest of the urban forestry to make final selections based on the top candidates to provide recommendation to either the mayor or city council, depending on the appointing body. And I just want to stop and ask if anyone has any questions pertaining to these additions to this particular article about members. So far, there's no clear process that's been adopted that really fleshes out what do we do when the term of a Urban Forestry Commission member ends. There's a couple other articles that we have brief updates to, so I can continue with that, but if anyone has any thoughts on this particular process now, we're going to dig into this a little bit more as well. It pertains to the ad hoc committee.
Yes, I think this is great, and thanks to the executive committee for putting it down. And it takes some effort to do that, and I think it's great. The only feedback I might offer is a 30-day application period might be a little short, just because it tends to take a few weeks for word to get out about an opportunity, and I would hate for the application window to close before people are made aware of the opportunity. So I would recommend extending either 45 days or even a 60-day application period, but 30 seems it might be too tight. That would be my feedback.
Thank you.
And I just want to make a general comment about just updates to the rules and regulations, right? So we've had 8 commission meetings of the whole, and this just really speaks to like us just evolving. And as we're meeting and as we're learning and as changes take place, we're identifying ways where we can improve as a commission. And so I just want to thank Secretary Zaremba and, for, again, just taking the initiative on this to add this to our rules and regulations. And I think this is just, we'll be adding more as we evolve further. So thank you.
I think we can move to the next article on committees. The first point, the commission may create any committee or subcommittee it deems necessary to carry out the work of the commission, is already included in the rules and regulations. The second bullet point here, committees or subcommittees must create a committee charter to align with the goals of the Urban Forestry Commission, is a new addition, currently not in our rules and regulations, but has been a topic of discussion for several months at this point. So proposing adding this in as well. On to the next one. The last article that we're proposing updating, also based on discussions that we've had, and a process that we fleshed out during the last public meeting is, so this language is currently existing in the rules and regulations on public participation during quarterly public meetings. This mostly pertains to public comment received in person. The next slide proposes adding in some new language, specifically talking about the process for which we review public comments received online. So if you go to the next slide. We have discussed this process during the last meeting, but this would be added in referring to the public comments and stored in Google Forms, in the Google Forms in our Google Drive. All the responses are stored in a public Google Drive. The executive committee reviewing each public comment before the quarterly public meetings to determine if the public comment requires a response from the Forestry Commission. If the public comment is within the scope of the Urban Forestry Commission and does require a response, the executive committee will delegate the task to the appropriate committee. The Urban Forestry Commission will issue a response at their discretion by the next quarterly meeting. If the public comment is not within the scope of the Urban Forestry Commission and does not require a response, the comment is recorded. The executive committee may provide contact to the more appropriate party to respond to the comment if necessary.
I would say that are we having discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I wanted to say that I think this has been one point that's been a little, I'm so glad it's coming up, which is the two ways in which public comment is received, whether in person or online. I believe as it now stands, I didn't pull it up quickly enough, but on our website, which is webpage, which is hosted under the Office of Sustainability, it's possible to go on and look at online public comment that's been submitted. It's sort of memorialized there as a placeholder over time. You don't have the same for in-person or verbal public comment. So I would just wonder about, I don't know if formal action is needed from the commission today to adopt these new revisions to rules and regulations, but I would see value in having all public comment memorialized and in the same manner, whether verbal or submitted online, because it seems if only the online comment is publicly accessible and stays there over time, that doesn't really reflect the full scope of public comment that has been offered. Does that make sense? So I don't know, the best way to do that. I don't know if during the meeting, if the secretary would, in theory, one opportunity would be to make note of public comment comes in. And actually, could we go back to the prior slide that has to do with in-person comment? So I'm not sure here about, again, it seems like there's a little bit of a discrepancy between in-person versus online. The whole thing about the response versus no response. So if we go to the next slide, sorry, Rick. No, it is there you go. No, the online one. Yes. It does require a response. So if I'm not mistaken, the online form, and again, I didn't pull it up here, includes the comment given and the response, or am I mistaken about that? We go to if we were to go now to the sustainability website, to the Urban Forestry Commission page, and click on online public comment.
There's no column for response. It just
there
knows
isn't.
if the public comment has been read.
Okay, interesting.
And the date of the commission meeting when it was read.
Yes. Okay, so I'm not quite, I don't know if I would be ready to adopt the public comment portion of these revisions today without really thinking through, making sure that there's no discrepancy between online versus in person, and then the manner by which, a response is given or not given, and the manner by which the response is memorialized. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's something. So I'm hearing, and we do record public comments read at the meetings, in the meeting minutes, and they're also available in recordings, but that it might be helpful to have that migrated to this new space as the online public comments are received, and have a clear process make it clear that you're being treated with the same
sort of process?
Potentially, yes. I mean,
Okay.
I'm kind of thinking in real time here, but I'm just, yeah, I would welcome other comments from other commission members, but just before adoption, I think it might be worth thinking through, you know, that piece of it. Okay.
And I think we also were taking guidance, from other commissions and how they, receive public comment, and do other commissions respond, and do they have a process to respond? And we did do some, asking around, if you will, on that note. But if you want us to kind of revisit the different forms of receiving comment, and then to make sure that there is, I guess, equity across all forms of comment.
That's
How it's received, how it's recorded, how it's responded to.
Yes, yes, and I think here too, it's interesting, again, only right now, online is the notion of a response mentioned under the online portion. So again, I would want policies to be the same for both in person and online. But there's, it's interesting, there's sort of a discrepancy, seems to be discrepancy under A1. So it says, if it does require a response, it will be delegated to the appropriate committee. But then it says the response is at discretion. So it's an interesting, I think this is getting close, but it's not quite there in terms of clarity of, will a response be offered or not?
Okay.
And the format in which it would be offered.
Okay.
I would recommend, because listen, this is a huge learning curve, I think, for everyone involved. And I've been on council for 3.5 years, and I'm still learning city policy myself. I would say, if possible, having my dream, I don't know if it's possible to operationalize, but would be to have the comment self-memorialized and have the response memorialized to be able to refer back to that. So we're not, what did we say again? What did we not say as a response? Hunting and pecking through minutes can be cumbersome. I think that would maximize the transparency of the commission. So it's just something to consider. Again, I would not be ready to vote on this particular part of the revisions today. So we don't thought that.
Thank you for your comments, Councilmember. Any other comments or questions about the proposed revisions to the rules and regulations? Outside of the public comment portion?
No, thanks again to the
Okay.
executive committee for doing this work.
You're welcome. All of us together. Okay, so, all right, so piggybacking off of, some rules and regulation discussion and really wanting to formalize the process for the commission, we do unfortunately have some terms that are ending December 31st, of this year. And those commission members are Gray Alexi, Bernie Jackson, who's our utility, representative. I'm sorry, Gray was our certified arborist representative, and Roger Tokars, who is our resident representative. And so I would like to take a moment to read something that Chair Malone prepared, since she could not be here in person, to thank Gray, Bernie, and Roger for their service. Dear members of the Cleveland Urban Forestry Commission, although I'm unable to join you today, I wanted to take a moment to express my deep gratitude for the opportunity to serve as an inaugural member of this commission alongside Gray, Roger, and Bernie. Their hard work, dedication, and passion have been invaluable over the past 2 years, and their commitment has truly laid the groundwork for a more vibrant, sustainable urban forest in Cleveland. As their terms come to an end, I want to personally thank them for their service. We wish them nothing but success in their future endeavors and hope they remain engaged with us in the journey to build a greener, healthier Cleveland for future generations. Together, we've set a strong foundation for the vision of a thriving urban forest that will benefit our community and enhance the quality of life for Cleveland's residents. I look forward to seeing the continued growth of this commission and our shared goals. And absolutely, I share the sentiment from our chair, and presumably everyone on the commission does. So thank you so much, Roger. I'm looking directly at you because you are the only one whose term is ending who's in the room. So thank you so much. And I know we'll be continuing to cross paths.
I just want to say, yeah, thanks for having me.
Please, yes.
As a resident, I wanted to become more involved and having the chance to come here and see how our government works, how we can make a difference. And hopefully I can take what I've learned and apply it to my future endeavors with trees and helping the neighborhood.
Thank you. And I think you already will, right? Having, you're a recipient of
With the Cleveland Tree Coalition.
Cleveland Tree Coalition, doing some tree planting, so we will be working together.
Yeah, I did
Find-
apply for a grant and it
find
was
some homes.
accepted.
Great. Congratulations. So, okay, so I'm sorry, just reverting back to the slide now. Thank you for those words, Roger. It's really been a pleasure to work alongside you. So we do have, two open positions that, due to like changes in their circumstance at, they have different jobs now, and that was, Divya Sridhar, if we remember, unfortunately, had circumstances change. So the nonprofit position has been open. And then also Mikel Jean-Baptiste has also, he's taken a position, I believe, with the city of Cleveland in economic development, correct? Or community development. Okay, well, we're gonna track down, it's, all right, fabulous. All right, well, Mikel's on Team Cleveland in a different capacity, but so we are looking for a developer, for that position. And then the new positions that are gonna open up, for like January 1st, if you will, is then the certified arborist, the resident electrical utility representative. So having just kind of laid the framework there, is the next slide talk about kind of the, yes, okay. So this is when I would like to introduce the possibility of creating an ad hoc recruiting committee, because we have several vacancies to fill, and we just would love to just get some support, the executive committee, get some support from other commission members to take on filling these positions. So we kind of, here's a rough idea of what the tasks of this ad hoc committee would be, is to review and revise the application and the interview questions. So this would be digging through the files from like summer 2022 of what that application looked like and those interview questions. Do we want to change them or revise them? Explore all the means and methods to advertise these open positions and post them so we get the word out, like to the point that Councilmember Spencer was making, being concerned about is 30 days long enough. Then once the application period closes, reviewing those applications and then scheduling and conducting interviews, hopefully early December. Then convene to review final recommendations, also early December, and then forward those recommendations to mayor and council. Now, I know that seems like a lot to accomplish between now and the end of the year. Xavier, I'm reading you're like, yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, I mean, this is our goal, right? This is our goal. We'd love to be able to get these seats filled so that January 1, we have those new members starting and then continuing, to serve the 2 years or 3-year term of that position. So I would like to make a motion to create an ad hoc recruiting committee within the commission.
I second the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's great. So we have formed an ad hoc recruiting committee. I'm also looking for volunteers.
I will volunteer.
Thank you, Councilmember Spencer. Anyone else on the commission would like to support this effort? Jose, great. Thank you. Dan, thank you so much. Great. All right, it is noted. Any other takers? Thank you so much. Okay, let's. Okay, great. So yeah, so at this point, we are going to just move the conversation about the draft tree and sidewalk policy likely to the next meeting, so that we can make sure that we have enough time for the public comment. There is one online public comment that I will read first. Okay. This comment actually came in today. First name Jeremy, no last name provided. Jeremy lives in Ward 13. I'm just reading right off the online form so anyone can follow along, online. Here's what Jeremy says. My wife and I just moved into Cleveland recently, and we are very concerned about the long-term care and replacement rate of tree lawn trees. Driving around surrounding cities, it has become very apparent that Cleveland does not seem to be putting in the same amount of effort to restore/maintain tree lawns. There seems to be a big push to, quote, reforest our city, end quote. So we'd like to know what the plan is going forward for tree lawn trees, question mark. Specifically, we've heard Cleveland has a tree lawn tree replacement wait list and have been told it takes years to get a tree. We'd like to know what's going on there and if there's a plan to improve this program. Lastly, the reason some neighborhoods are able to enjoy tree-lined streets now is a result of plantings decades ago. It's way too easy for trees to be cut down in our city. We cannot continue to take them down without replacement. If we don't increase efforts to restore the urban canopy now, future generations will not have the same quality of life. That concludes Jeremy's online comment. Okay. And now we have some folks who have signed up for the in-person public comment. So welcome everyone. Michael Armstrong is the first person who signed up. So Michael, would you please, we might be able to hear you better, or the viewing public might be able to hear you better if you wouldn't mind just coming up to the table to have your public comment. That'd be great. Thank you so much. And Michael Armstrong, since I announced for Jeremy, Michael Armstrong lives in Ward 15.
Thank you for having me today. I'm speaking today in regards to the establishment of the new Urban Forestry Division, which was Ordinance 521, 2024, passed over the summer. And then also Section City Code 163.04, the duties of your commission. And I know one set of the duties is, of course, providing recommendations on policy plans, programs, and the protection of associated trees on public or private property. And then in July, this commission voted unanimously to endorse the new division legislation. So I soon made recommendations Friday. My concern is about the duties of the new tree commission section. The duties are mostly about risk. There's no mention about protecting or growing tree canopy. It says, and I'll just paraphrase a little bit and just pull out a few things. It says, commissioner shall control and manage the removal of dead and hazardous trees, prevent unsafe conditions relating to tree growth, trim trees for clearance of streetlights, traffic signals, signs, pedestrian and vehicular traffic, and building clearance, remove overgrown tree roots that cause raised sidewalks and overgrown tree lawns, develop, coordinate, and implement city's tree canopy, and provide public information regarding care trees. I'm not saying that's not beneficial, but it is focused a lot on what I see as risk management. There's nothing about protecting mature trees or expanding our tree canopy for the many benefits trees provide to the citizens of Cleveland. It says, though, develop, coordinate, and implement the city's tree canopy. But what exactly does that mean? this commission actually discuss this new goal or make any recommendations? No, I know there's a section in the city code, 503.10, gas pipes in street. And it says, basically you need a permit from the gas company, give the gas company a permit to plant putting gas lines within 15 feet of a tree. But it says you get the permit from the Department of Public Works. Shouldn't the urban forestry commissioner have some role or some sign off or some authority? So, just from an organizational perspective, I think that would make some sense. And that's just one example in the legislation, at least on the organizational side, of where I think there's some flaws, but there are many more. And I know I only have a few minutes here, so also just wanted to add that in the Cleveland Tree Plan, in the documents related to the establishment of this commission, it says there were too many tree voices in this city. And thus urban forestry, this commission, and the tree coalition must be the single voice for trees in Cleveland. I don't think you or the CTC have the capacity to be, you don't have the capacity to be the single voice for trees in the city. And I don't see the benefits of having a urban forestry commissioner focused mostly on risk. At least I don't see that as getting us to a 30% canopy rate by 2040. Our policy decisions must include the importance of getting us to that's all I have.
Thank you very much. All right, next I'd like to call up Dean Van Farrell, resident also from Ward 15.
Thank you very much. I want to just speak a big thank you to my own council member, Spencer, for taking such a lead. Tree maintenance and tree care, thank you. It's an honor to be in your ward. I'll be very brief. I heard today that the policy was last updated, policy 509 was last updated in 1924. This commission tabled a motion to recommend that policy 509 be revised, which includes the policy around enforcement of our laws. This means that 6 months will pass by before a motion will be passed, and then to be passed on to the city internally and the law department, Parks and Rec, and urban forestry, and then finally to city council. Your work is incredibly appreciated, but if we are to mobilize to increase the canopy 30% by 2025, there must be greater urgency, it seems, by this commission and by all of us. Even tabling the draft policy for trees and sidewalks with you just now is unfortunate. While I appreciate the chance to speak, that review seems absolutely critical. For again, there will be a 6-month wait, July to January, before that can be reviewed. So, just encouraging all of us to realize the moral urgency around increasing the canopy, even as we see the October hurricanes occurring down south. So let's all keep that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dean. Okay, next we would like to invite Dolores Watson to make her public comment and also a resident of Ward 15.
Yes, this is the Ward 15 contingent today. Thank you very much for having me. I also am very concerned about our ever diminishing tree canopy. We are not increasing it as we desperately need to do. And part of that is because we see trees coming down just in Ward 15, just in our small group, the tree canopy subcommittee members who bring to our attention other members of the committee that trees are coming down around our community and have absolutely no idea why. There doesn't seem to be any construction going on at the moment, and yet the trees are coming down, and it's not a good enough solution to say that we plant another tree. We all know it takes 20 to 50 years for any tree to give us the adequate ecological services we need now. So I want to know how we can become more aware of when trees are going to come down and why. I don't know if that is something that commission can handle, if that's information that even comes to you. How do you know when a tree is going to be removed from a neighborhood? Is that cross your desk? Does anybody say anything to you? I mean, I know that they do if it's a developer. But there seems to be a lot of activity about removing trees that doesn't seem right for some reason. And we're talking about right of way trees, not just trees that people have in their yards. People are treated if they wish. Anyway, we are tree warriors, so to speak. We like to keep our trees. We'd like to know what we can do to help stop people from moving on the mature forests that we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dolores. Next, we have public comment from Sarah Till. No, okay. Was this?
I thought that was just the sign-in.
It was, you thought it was the sign-in sheet, not.
I don't have any.
Okay, okay.
Could you introduce yourself?
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure,
Yeah.
I will do that. I was just trying to sign in and be a good citizen. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Tilley. I'm the newly hired director of the Cleveland Tree Coalition. I am hitting the end of month 3, so I'm very new. But I am excited to be here and to see the work that the Urban Forestry Commission has been doing. And I come from sort of a public health and equity background, so I'm really excited to keep working on our urban forestry with equity and public health benefits in mind. And I thank you all for the opportunity to see you, meet you, put your face, your real face, not your Zoom face to you. So, yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Don't have much time allotted for it. Okay. We have 6 minutes left in this meeting, so we are going to go and review the draft policy for trees and sidewalks. Brett, if you would be so kind as to take us to slide 12 in the presentation. Okay, great. This is, I can't emphasize enough, this is draft. This is a draft policy. There is a long kind of a lot of sequence of events that took us here. And I just want to commend my commission member, Rick Switalski, who has helped work with me in my role as the urban forestry manager to kind of come to this place. And also Rick and his team have explored other ideas that we've had for trying to retain healthy mature trees during sidewalk construction. So I definitely want to thank Rick for his ongoing open-mindedness when it comes to some ideas that I have presented throughout the years. So there is a new, I guess, the impetus for this new draft policy are some new federal guidelines. They're accessibility guidelines, referred to as PROWAG, which stands for Public Right-of-Way Accessibility Guidelines. Now, our typical sidewalks in the city of Cleveland have to be a minimum of 4 feet. That's city ordinance right now. And then there are also, for ADA, the ADA compliance, 4 feet is what we have gone with because we believe that's the best for mobility. So I just have a picture here, right? We see this, I guess, all too often where the tree has now just kind of grown over the sidewalk. Oftentimes you'll see the buttress roots growing over the curb as well. And these roots, cause damage to the existing gray infrastructure. Oh, yes.
Just to make the PROWAG properly represented,
Thank you. Go ahead, Rick.
4 foot is a minimum, 5 foot's recommended, that's all I want.
Okay.
4 foot is fairly.
4 foot's a minimum according to ProWay.
They want 5, it's actually known as the, public access, right away, that's what it's called, instead of sidewalk, PAR.
Okay,
So there's different terms, but that 4 is minimum, 5 is preferred.
based on the guidance from the General Services Administration or the GSA branch of government or arm division department. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but they're the ones who are kind of behind the ProWay. And those websites are up, also posted, for folks to, if they want to do additional information. I do have a reference here to TDS 50/50 programs. TDS is the Tree Damage Sidewalk Program, which I believe started in 2013. Maybe that was the pilot year, but that's basically 2015. Okay, thank you, Rick. So these are the sidewalk program replacement programs in the city of Cleveland. Next slide. Again, I said this was a high level overview of a draft policy, which means that I've been given guidance from the law department to draft this policy. I've worked with a policy advisor in the mayor's office to draft the policy. And so I just want to kind of give high level overview of this with the idea that it would be then handed off possibly to Chair Schreiber if, to move through the policy committee. So I don't want to not mention that. So the draft policy seeks to retain healthy trees and preserve dwindling canopy and install new sidewalks to support greater mobility. Both of these things are incredibly important for the city of Cleveland, for this administration. I would argue for any city around the globe, mobility and tree canopy, and how do we marry the two, not especially, but specifically when we put in new sidewalks. Next slide, please. So this is just kind of to give imagery around the buttress roots of the tree. So these buttress roots I point to in the top right or right side picture, those roots are responsible for supporting the tree, anchoring it, keeping it upright in the ground. These are also the roots that are capable of damaging the gray infrastructure, meaning sidewalks and curbs. So essentially have to respect kind of the base of the tree and those buttress roots. And then circled on the bottom left is what we want to avoid. So we're putting in a new sidewalk there that's indicated by the horizontal kind of light piece of wood that's framing where the new sidewalk will be poured. And in this case, the buttress roots were ground off of the tree. Whoops, sorry. Go back. So that this kind of action on this particular tree resulted in the tree being removed because those buttress roots, again, being anchoring roots, this increased the risk of that tree falling over. Next slide. So here's some tools we already have in our toolbox. Again, want to thank Engineering Construction, Rick Tulsky and team for getting us to these tools. Reducing the sidewalk width. So when we do have a 5 foot sidewalk width that it's currently there, we can reduce it down to 4 feet. The image on the right, you could see where the tree lawn area essentially, or the space where the tree is growing, the sidewalk curves around the buttress area of the tree. And so we can do that. We have been doing that in the city of Cleveland since 2015, when we can take it from a 5 foot down to a 4 foot walk. Again, 4 foot is the absolute minimum. Last year, I believe there was legislation passed that Kerry McCormick put forth to expand our ability to request easements from adjacent property owners. So with that new kind of ordinance authority, we no longer have to go and ask for an easement every time from the city council. It's more of a blanket easement approach. And so thanks again to Rick and his team. We work together, the engineers and urban forestry work together to draft the letter. When we can't reduce the sidewalk, we want to retain the tree. We can't reduce the sidewalk down anymore. It's already a 4 foot sidewalk. So then at that point, we can engage the adjacent property owner and request permission to put a portion of the sidewalk on their private property. And that is they can opt in or opt out. So that started, I guess, heading, different streets during the TDS program. I want to say at the end of last year, Rick, but yeah. And then the new tool is what this draft policy is. So there are often times where we do not need, in order to save a tree and not damage the buttress roots, we don't need a whole lot of more room. So this draft policy basically takes an exception. There's language in the PRO-WAG where you can make an exception for a natural or historic structure. So we're trying, again, in the policy to say that basically, we're the city of Cleveland, our canopy is dwindling, a natural or historic feature is a tree we want to retain in our community. So we would like to be able to, with this policy, reduce the sidewalk even more, but no more narrow than 36 inches, which is what the minimum is needed for mobility purposes in a wheelchair. So this is what we're looking, is to be able to maybe go down 42 inches with a sidewalk so that we don't have to damage a buttress root, or 40 inches with a sidewalk in order not to damage a buttress root. So there are exceptions, like I said, listed in the PRO-WAG. And so that is what this policy kind of tries to flesh out. And then, of course, what we're always doing, what we've been doing in the urban forestry office since day one, is planting the right tree in the right place. So we want to, make sure that we are making, those informed decisions. Also, like this goes with our tree commission academy training, right? Is like, we have to consider the mature size of that tree in that space. Will it live for decades and decades? So that's the end of my presentation. We're way out of time, sorry. I apologize everyone for going over. But I would like to actually make a motion to, have the Urban Forestry Policy Committee review the draft policy at a separate committee meeting. Do I have a second to that motion?
Second that motion.
Okay, all right. And then also working obviously through the internal channels. Go ahead, Rick.
This is gonna be a policy for the city of Cleveland. Doesn't it have to go through administration?
That's what we're all trying to figure
Okay,
out.
so basically the task then you give it to the policy that we are, is to have our comments, be given to the administration, along with everyone else's comments, see how they want, which way they want to go with it.
That's fine, yeah. Are you, yeah.
I want to get clarity.
No, that's great. I appreciate that you want to do, because I want to, the purpose too is like, I want to make sure that I don't have any blind spots, like in full transparency, right? Because this is, I'm the urban forestry manager. My job is to protect the trees, and so am I missing some of them? So bringing those people to the table.
We and see to our LCAP director who commented on this policy to him for consideration along the line.
Great, but I'll circle back with you then offline.
Once he, I'll be happy to give it to you once he decides which way to go. Because I recommend to him if he goes to TV, that whole chain. So.
Okay.
Once that's decided, yes, sir, with everyone, I'm sure that help will be involved with that.
So given Rick's input, is there any comment or maybe a different motion that anyone on the commission thinks is necessary to explore? It reminds me to go back to what we were talking about earlier, is there's two roads here, right? It's to, like Rick said, he's reviewed it internally with his director. And then we can review it as a commission, as a committee, and then kind of compare notes, essentially.
And I have lots of
Yeah.
questions, but as a member of the policy committee, I think it's appropriate way to hold them.
Okay, All right.
I just do want to clarify though, it seems like the big headline is that the existing policy is not sufficient to do the tree preservation we want to do. This is, so we're looking at, do we add an additional policy to preserve more trees? Is that, I think, would be the overarching question that we're exploring.
Yeah, do we make an exception to federal guidelines?
Okay.
I think the question is our exceptions acceptable for the federal guidelines? You know, the feds come in, every all the money, if they come in through a complaint from a citizen saying, I can't utilize the sidewalk, my wheelchair is too big. And they come in and go, you're absolutely right, I don't want my personal opinion. Shouldn't have a policy that you can defend against the feds. If it's not defensible, it shouldn't be there. You know, you get lots of problems with that in terms of fines and things like that, but we had back in, it was 2088 ramps on St. John's. That was a whole big court case about that, so the issues that our exceptions won't fit the federal understanding, and we should have those exceptions.
And then I had
Yeah.
one more burning.
It's like a 2.5-page policy, so all of the specifics and the specific clauses in ProWag that are, that we believe, that I wrote thinking these would be exceptions, I pulled those clauses out, so there's a much deeper dive, I think, that we can't take, but go ahead.
It's interesting when I saw this, by the way, I'm glad we are adding our time for this. Thank you for doing that. I know we're a little late, but when I saw this on the agenda, I had actually been tagged on a social media post saying, oh, good, the city of Cleveland's implemented flexi pay. So I thought, so anyway, that's another sidebar asterisk of trying to clear up.
I have an update on that
Okay.
offline.
All right,
Sure.
sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay,
Should we
so,
go ahead and have a vote on the motion?
yes, and then we
Which is
can,
To refer the policy to the policy committee.
Yes.
I second the motion, Tom.
Do I get to say all this? in favor?
Yes.
Oh.
All in favor, go ahead.
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
okay.
I'm
Oh, Rick,
saying,
all opposed?
I'm opposed.
Just
I just got a question because I'm
Okay,
on the one side of the fence with.
before, can I pause that for a moment, just because we have to get through just the formality of the motion passed? Okay, so go ahead with your comment, that motion.
I'm sitting here with two hats. I'm sitting here as managing
Same.
engineering construction, where I have a set of comments. Now, I'm sitting with my commission hat on. And I'll have the same comments, most likely. Just want to make sure that two hats sitting here. And I have a love of trees and I have a love of people being there.
Absolutely.
Sometimes they clash.
So I don't know that you're on the policy committee, but would you be willing to attend this policy
Rick's
committee?
a standing member.
Unfortunately, I've been gone
You've
for a
been
while
out.
for injury, so.
I'm so glad you're back. Okay, all right, wonderful. All right, I look forward to that discussion, and thank you so much, Chair Schreiber, for agreeing and making that motion. Okay,
Madam Chair, thanks so much for putting, for all that will protect trees. I'm excited to review.
great. Thank you so much. Okay, so we are 10 minutes over. Again, I just want to thank everyone in this room for sticking with us through the last bit of the meeting. And at this time, I will make a motion to adjourn the Urban Forestry Commission meeting. Do I have a second? All right, on favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Everyone, thank you. Oh, wait. Burn questions.